Welcome to the deep dive. So, if you are listening right now, I'm guessing you're probably wrestling with a big goal. Maybe it's about health or, finally getting a handle on your finances. Maybe it's for your career or your family.
And if you're like most of us, you know that cycle all too well. You have this really authentic desire for change. You start out so strong, and then it all just kind of quietly disintegrates a few weeks later.
And that leads to this awful self-blame. What's wrong with me?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get into this enormous stack of sources we went through. We're talking about some really deep empirical science on behavioral change. And here's the central finding. What is maybe the biggest lie about personal change?
It's the idea that you just need to work harder, that you're just missing some internal thing like willpower or grit.
Right, that it's a character flaw.
It's not. The research is just crystal clear. Change isn't a character trait you have or you don't. It's fundamentally a skill. And like any skill, it requires strategy and some intentional engineering.
So the goal isn't to force yourself to do hard things. It's to make the hard things easy.
And maybe even enjoyable. That's the real mission.
So our deep dive today is basically a shortcut to that successful engineering. We're unpacking findings compiled over 2 decades by, 180 scientists at the Behavior Change for Good initiative?
Our whole goal here is to pull it all together, identify the 7 sort of hidden universal barriers that keep us all stuck, and then give you the evidence-based tools to actually overcome them.
And that last part is so important, right? We have to stop with the one-size-fits-all approach.
You really do. You can't fix a problem until you diagnose what's actually causing it.
Yeah.
So the very first step for you, listening, is diagnosis. Which of these 7 barriers are you personally up against?
Okay, that feels like a really powerful framework. So what are they? What are these 7 universal barriers?
Well, they fall into a few different categories. You've got the initial problems, the hurdles at the very beginning. First, there's the inertia of just getting started, that initial friction.
Oh, yeah. That can feel like the biggest mountain to climb.
It often is.
Yeah.
Second is impulsivity. That's our wiring for short-term thinking, always wanting that instant gratification. Scientists call it present bias.
And the third one, I think we all know this one.
Yeah, procrastination. Putting off the hard stuff.
So those first 3 are about the starting line, basically. What about keeping the momentum going when you're in the middle of it?
That's the maintenance phase. So number 4 is forgetfulness. Just the simple fact that our goals, they fade from our minds.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. Number 5 is laziness, which sounds harsh, but it's really just about our human wiring to prefer the path of least resistance.
Okay.
Number 6 is a lack of confidence, that feeling of discouragement or the belief that, I can't actually do this. And then finally, number 7 is conformity. This is the huge influence of the people around us. Their norms, their behaviors, they shape ours.
Wow. Okay, that 7-point list is a perfect roadmap. So let's just attack that very first one, getting started, that feeling of, I know I should start, but when?
The best tool that behavioral scientists have for this, for that initial inertia, is something called the first start effect.
And you mentioned this is rooted in something called autobiographical memory. How does our brain make a Monday feel so different from, say, a Tuesday?
We don't see our lives as this one long, continuous line. We see our personal history more like a novel.
With chapters.
Exactly, with really clear chapter breaks. And the science shows that when we hit one of these breaks, we naturally step back and we do what's called big picture thinking.
And what's the psychological effect of that? Why does that matter?
What's crucial is that it creates this psychological distance from the old me.
Yeah.
The one who failed or who didn't achieve the goal. You feel separate from that past, and that separation opens up this little window for optimism, for the belief that the new me can actually do better.
And these breaks are happening all the time. It's not just the big ones, like a new job or moving to a new city.
No, not at all. You've got these mini breaks that are super frequent. Every Monday is a mini break. The first of the month, birthdays, even holidays like the start of spring.
So you can actually plan for this. You can look at your calendar, find a meaningful fresh start coming up, and peg your goal to that moment.
That's the application. You use that psychological trigger as a motivation to just begin.
But hold on. If the first start effect is so powerful, why do New Year's resolutions fail so spectacularly every year?
Because a fresh start is only the motivation to begin. It's not a plan for the finish line. People get that initial kick, but they don't have a strategy to keep going. They get started, and then bam, they hit the other 6 barriers we just listed.
So you need more than just hope. You need tools.
Some tools.
Okay, let's get into the next 2 barriers then. Impulsivity and procrastination. They feel like two sides of the same coin, right? This desire for immediate comfort.
It's exactly right. Impulsivity is all about craving an instant reward. If your long-term goal, like, say, exercising, feels really painful right now, your brain is just going to scream at you to do something that feels good immediately, like scrolling on your phone.
So the strategy isn't to just gut it out. It's to engineer the activity itself so that it gives you an instant reward. A spoonful of sugar, like Mary Poppins said.
That's the idea. We call this temptation bundling. You combine a chore, your long-term goal, with a temptation, something you really love that you might otherwise restrict.
And the research on this is amazing, especially that gym study.
Oh, it's fantastic. So participants made a simple rule. I only get to listen to this really gripping audiobook, like a thriller or Harry Potter, while I am physically at the gym exercising. The craving for the next chapter becomes the instant reward that pulls you through the workout.
And that one simple pairing led to people exercising. What was it, 56% more? That is a huge deal. That's not a minor tweak.
It's a massive shift because it creates what's called complementary motivation. The audiobook distracts you from the discomfort, and your craving for the story pulls you forward. You can do this anywhere. Save your favorite podcast only for when you're cleaning the bathroom. You turn the chore into a treat.
Okay, so that's the carrot. That's running toward pleasure. What about procrastination? That's about avoiding the stick, avoiding the hard stuff.
So with that, you have to flip the script. You need to increase the penalty for not doing the hard thing. We use what are called commitment devices.
We're used to external ones, like a deadline from your boss or a speeding ticket, but you're saying we can create our own.
Yes, you can impose your own concrete consequences. You put something tangible on the line.
And the research suggests that putting money on the line is really effective, right?
It's very effective. You can use commitment websites or even just a friend as a referee, and you put a sum of money on the line that you literally forfeit if you fail to hit your goal. Let's say meditating 3 times this week. If you don't, that money is gone.
That sounds intense. I have to ask, does that ever backfire? Does the fear of losing money just create more stress and make people quit altogether?
That is a great question. But the mechanism seems to be less about fear and more about concrete commitment. Look at the smoking cessation studies.
Okay.
Smokers were given a special savings account. If they failed a nicotine test 6 months later, they forfeited the money in that account. But here's the key. Just having access to that device, that clear structure, reduced smoking by 30%. It externalizes accountability in a powerful way.
That is a massive shift, and it's so different from just telling yourself, I'll have more self-control. This is also related to the idea of increasing friction for the bad behavior, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a fantastic strategy. You make the bad thing harder to do. If you want to stop ordering takeout, just delete the apps from your phone. That little bit of friction, having to go to the website, re-enter your credit card, is often enough to stop the impulse.
Or get all the junk food out of the house, so if you want a treat, you have to make a whole trip to the store.
You're using that fifth barrier, laziness, to your own advantage. You're making the bad choice, the high-effort choice.
Speaking of laziness, let's talk about it. And forgetfulness, barriers 4 and 5. Forgetfulness is such a silent killer of goals. We have this empathy gap where we think, oh, I'll definitely remember to do this later.
And then, 70% of that information is just gone within hours.
Yeah.
You don't fail because you stopped caring. You fail because your memory it decayed.
So what's the tool for that?
The solution is to move away from these vague intentions and use something called cue-based plans or implementation intentions. Instead of saying, I'll go to the gym this week, you get super specific about 3 things.
What are those 3 cues, the 3 questions?
You have to define when you'll do it, where you'll do it, and how you'll get there. The cue is the trigger, the environmental cue that reminds your brain to act.
It's like writing a little contract for your future self. If I pass the pharmacy on my way home, then I will stop and pick up my medication.
Exactly. That if-then structure prevents the whole I'll get to it later mindset. The cue makes the action almost automatic.
And this gets even stronger when you tie it to another person, right?
Yes, that research on tandem goal pursuit was fascinating.
Yeah.
Gym buddies were paid only if they both showed up together.
And they went.
They went 35% more often. That external requirement, that social cue, was an incredibly powerful accountability structure.
Which brings us to laziness. If we're hardwired to take the path of least resistance, the strategy has to be making the good path the easiest one.
It's all about designing positive defaults. Automatically transferring part of your paycheck to savings so it happens without you thinking about it.
Or just keeping healthy snacks right on the counter, easy to grab.
It's all about reducing friction. We know from data the farther you live from a gym, the less likely you are to go. So you bring the resources closer or you make the good choice the default.
And this is really the engine behind the habit loop, right? This is how you bypass conscious thought entirely.
That's the end game. Habits form from a really consistent cycle. A consistent context, which is the cue, leads to the action, which leads to a consistent reward. You just repeat that loop over and over until the cue automatically triggers the behavior.
So what looks like amazing self-control from the outside,
Is actually just a really well-designed routine on the inside.
it totally flips the script. Successful people aren't fighting battles all day. They've built systems that eliminate the fight.
Exactly. But here's the crucial part. You have to be patient. Simple habits like hand washing might take a few weeks to form. But complex ones, like a new exercise routine, that can take months to become automatic. So don't give up if it's still hard after 2 weeks.
Okay, let's hit the last two barriers. Confidence and conformity. When confidence is the issue, you just fundamentally don't believe change is possible for you.
The first strategy here is all in your head, adopting a growth mindset. You have to see a setback, not as proof that you're a failure, but as data, as a learning opportunity. You're a work in progress.
That makes sense intellectually, but how do you actually make yourself believe that? I'm thinking of that wild research on the placebo effect.
This is where it gets so interesting. There was a study with hotel room attendants, a very physical job. They split them into 2 groups. The first group was simply told that their daily work, all the cleaning they did, actually met the CDC's recommendations for daily exercise.
So they didn't change anything they were doing, they just got a piece of information.
That's it. The control group was told nothing. By the end of the study, the group that just changed their mindset saw real, measurable physiological improvements, weight loss, lower blood pressure, just from believing their work was exercise.
It's profound. It's like if you don't have the belief yourself, you need an external source, a coach, a program, something to be that placebo for you until you start to see the proof.
And one of the most effective ways to boost your own confidence is actually pretty counterintuitive. It's coaching others.
Wait, so if I'm struggling, I should go teach someone else how to do the thing I'm struggling with. How does that work?
Because it forces you to reflect. And it taps into the saying is believing effect. You start to feel like a hypocrite if you don't follow your own advice. There was a simple 8-minute exercise where high schoolers gave study advice to younger kids, and the advice giver's own grades went up significantly. Giving the advice convinced them that they were capable of following it.
Wow. Okay, so that brings us to the last barrier, conformity. The idea that we're just sponges soaking up the habits of people around us.
It's so powerful. You know, Air Force Academy students who were randomly assigned to studious roommates just got better grades. Their environment changed what they saw as normal and possible.
So the strategy has to be intentional engineering. You have to deliberately seek out and surround yourself with people who are already doing the things you want to do.
Conformity isn't a weakness, it's a tool. You just have to aim it in the right direction.
And the research is specific here. It's not just about getting abstract ideas. It's about finding someone and literally copy and pasting their strategy.
Yes. Go find someone who is achieving your exact goal and emulate what they're doing. Seeing someone else do it makes the whole plan feel real and achievable.
So if we pull all of this together, all 7 barriers, all these tools, the core lesson seems to be that success comes from making the goal easier and more enjoyable than not doing it.
That's it. Which leads us to the #1 rule from all this research, the big takeaway.
Which is?
Do not rely on willpower, rely on strategy. Because if pursuing your goal is painful, you will quit. You have to find a way to make it fun or social or instantly rewarding. That is the fundamental truth.
And as we close out this deep dive, there's one final kind of provocative thought for you to chew on. And it's about the power of grace and flexibility.
Yeah, researchers did a study where people set these really tough goals, like meditating 7 days a week. But they found that the group who gave themselves 2 emergency reserves, so they were allowed to skip 2 days a week and still have it count, that group was twice as successful as a group who just set the lower 5-day goal from the start.
Twice as successful. That's a huge finding. It's like building self-kindness into the goal actually makes you more likely to achieve it.
It ensures that one slip-up, which is inevitable, doesn't derail the whole journey. Setbacks are just part of being human.
Your goals are achievable. You just needed the right strategy, not more pain or more self-blame.
So take a moment right now and think. How can you build an emergency reserve, a little bit of grace, into one of your goals this week?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the science of change. We really hope these strategies help you stop chasing willpower and start engineering your own success. We'll see you on the next deep dive.